Okay, so we're going to continue Siman Kuf Pei tests towards the end. We'll try to do a few seifim today. Before we go on, what I'm going to do is review some of the points we covered last time that were left a little bit unclear. And I realized later why they were unclear, because we forgot to an additional detail that is not so indicated here, but we must insert it. Once we insert a little detail, everything pretty much falls into place. But before we get to that nekuda, we're dealing right now with certain symptoms that the body can have prior to a period, prior to the onset of a period. And these symptoms, apparently, from the halacha, indicate that they're to be taken more seriously than unusual situations, the like of jumping and seeing. Because the likes of jumping and seeing is not so natural. It involves force. It involves something forcing the body to produce blood, I guess. And any kind of force, whether it's carrying heavy objects or jumping, may produce that, but it's not a natural tendency. So therefore we had a machlokes on how to treat it if a woman can develop a veset just by jumping. And the Mechaber says, from what we understand, the Mechaber holds that it would require jumping and a day for it to occur, for it to be taken seriously. That if she were to jump on a certain day and it recurs several times, then perhaps a combination of the two is significant. But one by itself is not going to necessarily be a veset. Could it be treated as a veset she'eino kavua? Yeah, some would say that, at least the next time around, be choishesh, just one time, that perhaps, this may happen. In dealing with physical sensations or symptoms that the woman feels prior to the onset, that is more indicative of what is to come, and that is something that is a known thing. It's a fact that women will feel certain things. The question is, how reliable are they? A woman can have a headache any time of the month. She can sneeze at any time of the month. She can have cramps any time of the month.
Sneezing is
symptom
or is heavy lifting?
No. It's a symptom. It's not like right. We spoke about it. It's a machlokes. In other words, can we compare it or not?
I'm asking
Yeah.
because I don't know why I thought it exerts on the body that forces the body.
No. That was the jump. It's a symptom. It's an indicator. Something is about to happen. Something may happen. Now, of course, with the women, with the example that we have, is that for her, it is. Not for everyone. No, a lot of women sneeze, nothing happens. But it can be an indicator. It can be a symptom that is indicative of the onset of the period. As a result of that, because it is more natural for a woman to feel those things, she may need to be concerned either by when she experiences that symptom or the day, when that same day recurs on its own, even without the symptom. So that's very interesting. In other words, that give importance to the day, because it could be either or. It could be either or, because a symptom, that's what it is. It's indicative of something to come. So it could be that the day in itself is also sufficient. In other words, on the day that it happened, it's also sufficient for us to look out for it, because it's something that we are expecting, as opposed to jumping, which is not something so natural. It's therefore not something that we need to be concerned about as much, unless it is in a form of combination with the day. But by itself, not necessarily. So in Seif Kaf Aleph, the Mechaber discussed the various differences of what happens if all she had was a pihako, or all that happened was Rosh Chodesh came by. In the example of Kaf Aleph, we had pihako Rosh Chodesh. And she saw, and she again, pihako betoch yemei chodesh, in the middle of the month, so she has to be concerned about that pihuk, and she cannot be within her husband until she checks it. Because this is at the very least like any chashash of a veset shelo kavua, a veset of days. Ben shel haguf, ben shel yomim, ben shel haguf, choshesh elu bepam achas, there is concern, even though it just happened once, that it may recur again. And what's the concern here? The concern is that yesh lochu shema tikva vesed lepihuk belos manidu. It could be that the next time she's mefaheket, she yawns, it could be that she's going to have it even without a particular time. Also, if she checked herself and she didn't see anything, she won't be concerned herself with just with the pihuk. She has to be concerned about the Rosh Chodesh, Shema Tikva leRosh Chodesh. So here we see that there is more of a dagesh, more of an emphasis, or more of a concern about the day that this may happen, versus other situations which are not so common, that, if she didn't sneeze, then there's no reason for us to be concerned about the day that she did sneeze last time. And I use this as an example to explain where we left off pretty much from last time about the garlic.
So if that is, I need to really understand.
Yeah, but let's get into the garlic. When we get into the garlic, you'll understand because the two are very similar. Right? We learned last time that there is a situation where if a woman ate spicy food, whether it was garlic, onion, or pilpilin, as the example mentioned by the Ramah, that she can be kovea avesa to see either through a combination, in other words, it could be any one of them, or only one of them. In other words, if she in fact did see every time she ate garlic, then obviously does not mean that if she has onions, she has to be concerned about it, because it happened 3 times when she had garlic. The chidush here is that this is not like sneezing, in that when we talk about symptoms of the body, they all have to be the same for her to be kovea avesa with symptoms of the body. It can't be a cough, a sneeze, and a headache. The chidush in the Ramah was that it could be a combination of ma'acholim, and therefore we say that it's spicy food or hot food that produces or brings about the vesed. But the Ramah says that yesh oimrim shekol ze shetira alidei ma'achal dino kemo shetira alidei kfitza v'shar ma'aseh. He does bring the other opinion that holds that spicy food is more similar to kfitza. Spicy food is not similar to sensations of the body. It's more similar to the jumping. Shemikra re'i al yedoinus, it's called seeing something through force. Ve'eno kovat vesed elai mayomim, she can only be kovat vesed with days.
Is that changing back and forth with spicy food, or even if it's always garlic?
Even if it's only the garlic. That's correct, yeah.
So according to that opinion, but that's not...
No, the Ramah says you can use anyone. He holds his opinion that it could be a combination of all three. But no, he just brings down the 2 shitas, the machlokes rishonim. He doesn't say, he brings down Yesh Oimrim.
So what?
Yeah, there's some saying that we're machmir. Yeah. V'yesh Oimrim shedinoi keveset shetira lidei mikra shebegufo. It's more like the symptoms of the body. V'kovas oiso afilu belo yomim shavim, even without days that are the same. In other words, it could be at any day. If she has that symptom, it's enough for her to be kovas vesed. The other Shita hold that it's more like pizza, and therefore you need a combination of days and the eating of the garlic to produce a vesed here. Okay, so we left off a little bit talking about the garlic. That
so really, this second
opinion, yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, but there is a little bit of a similarity, even in garlic with kfitza, which we mentioned last time, and maybe I'll review it again this time. Yeah. But before we get to that, just to clarify a little bit where we left off, the question that was raised was, okay, does that mean that if the eating of the garlic is like a symptom of the body, which means that we take it seriously, in other words, it could produce a vesed over time. However, it is not like the symptom of the body in that I don't have to concern myself with the day. In other words, if let's say she were not to eat garlic on that particular day that she ate garlic, I don't have to be concerned about that day coming next time to watch out for the day as I would in other situations where I treat the day seriously as much as I treat the activity or the symptom, whatever it is that we're concerned about.
She wants to go,
That's right. In other words, Eating the garlic, it could be, of course, a combination of the two. It's very possible. Just like it could be a combination of kvitza and yomim, it could be a combination of eating spicy food on a certain day, but it could also be one and not the other. So the chiddush here is that even though before, with sensations of the body, with symptoms of the body, we said that, well, even though she didn't sneeze today, we still have to be at least one time concerned with the day she sneezed last time. With the eating of the garlic, it would not be a problem. You follow the difference? In other words, in one detail, this is the right, but in one detail, eating garlic is more similar to kvitza than it is to the symptoms that she would feel prior to the onset of her period. So she would not have to be concerned about the day. Oh, it's the day that last time I ate, but I'm not eating garlic now. Well, not eating garlic is not going to be a problem. So the question that was raised by Ilan was that what makes garlic so much more different than anything else, that we're concerned about the garlic and not concerned about the day? Well, what happens to the day? I mean, we're always concerned about a day at least once. And in reality, she should be seeing anyway once a month. By not eating the garlic, does that mean we're going to eliminate that once a month event? Pretty much what you said.
Still be very close.
Right, yeah.
In other words, that was
Right.
she hadn't eaten garlic.
Right.
In particular, she saw blood.
Right.
Then the month automatically on that
Right.
day she would have
Of
to
course,
replenish.
ordinarily, yeah.
So since what actually happened was she saw the particular blood, but she happened to eat garlic on
Right,
that day as
right.
well.
Yeah.
So now suddenly, this having eaten garlic takes away
Right.
the requirement of
Exactly,
having to watch
exactly.
out for the day. And that I don't. we
So
don't
that,
do garlic.
so that we didn't explain enough. So that's what I want to do a little bit now, is just get into a little bit more this halacha, even though it's not mentioned by others except by the Ramah. The Aruch HaShulchan doesn't apparently get into it. The Badei HaShulchan does have a little bit of a description of what's going on here. But what's really missing here is a detail that we didn't talk about last time, and that will help clarify everything. One thing is certain from the poskim is that eating garlic is, in other words, if it proved to have produced a period once, is more of an issue than kvitza, than jumping. That I have to be concerned about it, that it could be the next time it will produce it. Much more of an issue. Why? Because of the way it happens. It happens by eating it, by absorbing it into the body, as opposed to something from the outside causing it to happen. So in some ways, it's more like the symptom. What's a symptom? A symptom just tells me this is coming. The symptom is not producing the blood. The kvitza is producing or causing the blood. So in some ways, the garlic is similar to the symptom. In other words, actually, in some ways, it's similar to the kvitza, that it causes, right, something to happen. But it's not the same because it's being absorbed into the body. So it's not exactly the same as the kvitza, but it's causing the blood to happen as a result of her eating it. So we may be expecting it. In other words, we may see it as a result of something that she's doing to herself. It is therefore more likely that it's not related to the day than it is related to the actual eating of the day. So do I have to be concerned for the day? Even with the symptoms, the symptom tells me that this is coming. It could be the day. It could be that it's coming on that day. You see the difference? Here, it's because she ate it. I'm not necessarily expecting it to happen on a day. It's more related to her action than it is to a particular day. The symptom is not a cause. It's more of an indicator, and therefore I'm also concerned about the day. So even though she didn't do anything on that day, she didn't see anything or feel anything on that day, didn't sneeze or yawn, it could still happen on that day. But wait a minute, does that mean that if she doesn't have garlic, she will not have her period? That's where we have to clarify. No, it does not mean that. All it means is that garlic can bring it about. But any woman who does not have a vesed kavua, this is what we did not explain, has at least a vesed she'eno kavua. Remember, we have to remember that. And what's at the very least a vesed she'eno kavua? She has to be choshesh for oino beinonis. So this woman who did not eat garlic this month is still expected to see her period an Oina Beinonis. In other words, Oina Beinonis will be one of those days that she will see it. So this garlic is like George, you said last time, I believe, it's like in addition to whatever else we may be expecting during that month, or that we are going to be choishes for, like with any vesed and a kavua. So the not eating garlic is not going to take away the vesed. It's just this causes or
how
brings.
does it affect the garlic and did see last month? This month she doesn't eat garlic.
So right. So that day is not really a concern because it wasn't the day that caused it. It was more likely the garlic. Garlic has a koyach like pizza does, in a sense.
I can't follow. I'll tell you why.
Garlic is strong. It proved itself. It proved itself.
You know
Not 100%,
you
but
know when
yeah.
garlic proves itself?
Right.
Every time the lady eats garlic, she sees blood.
Right. Well,
First day of the month, second day of the
Right.
month, 10th day of the month. Anytime she eats garlic, she sees blood.
Right.
It depends on the garlic.
right.
But if she sees blood on a certain day on which she ate dark garlic, maybe on that specific day, because she's more sensitive to seeing blood anyway. So now the garlic adds to it and amplifies it.
Yeah.
It could be the day.
But she has another day that she's choishish, other than
Why
that.
is she in the
She has oina beinonis. She's not an isha that has a vesed kavua.
Maybe
Right.
what's happening,
Right.
but it brings it expecting, but not today, a day or two earlier. when she
That could
might
be
have-
too. Yeah.
Not that she has it every time, but when she has it, it makes it happen faster.
The mere fact that
Yes.
one of which the recurring phenomenon in a day,
Yeah.
the mere fact that two things occurred simultaneously
That's it.
hardly has the power to take away.
But it won't take away.
expectation of
That's
the-
what it is. It won't
so
take
she
away.
has to worry about the day on which it happened. Even
No,
if she
it won't
doesn't
take
have
away because she still has to be choishish of oina
on
beinonis,
something else,
which is
So
more,
it did
which
take
is more
away.
regular, which is more regular to be choishish for than the day she ate the garlic.
You understand?
Right.
You understand? If she hadn't eaten garlic on that day and she saw blood,
Well, of course.
she saw blood on that day, but she happened to eat garlic. It's not because of the day.
Right. That's the chidush here. That dvorim
So I
charifim.
didn't hear a good argument
Right.
why I should agree that the garlic has the koyach, the power, to remove a pre-existing rule that says if she sees on a particular day, then she has to be choshesh for that day. Why does the simultaneous second phenomenon of the garlic have the power to remove this expectation? The garlic came in addition, that it happened on a particular
Right.
day. The garlic came in addition. And maybe I'm now worried about garlic as well. Whenever she has garlic, she has to check herself.
If it happens, it happens. I mean,
If she
it
has
could be
garlic on a
that.
different day, does she
That's
have to
why.
check
That's
herself?
why some.
If she has garlic on a different day, does she have? She had garlic
Yes.
on the 15th of the month.
Right.
On the 10th of the next month, she has garlic. She has to check
Of
herself on the
course.
10th.
No, she has to check herself only when she has the garlic.
I said, on the next month, she has garlic on the 10th.
Right.
Does she have to check herself on the 10th?
No.
I thought I said it was because of the garlic and not because of the month.
One second. Maybe I didn't understand you. She had garlic twice.
She had garlic last month on the 10th of the month.
Right.
I mean, on the 15th.
Right.
And she saw.
Right.
A month later, she has garlic on the 10th of the month.
And she saw.
No. Does she have to check herself?
Yes, she has to be choshish the first time. The next time around when she eats garlic, that she may
Anytime
be
she eats garlic, she has
only
to check
once.
herself.
Only once.
Doesn't mean only.
Only once. In other words, if the next time she has garlic and she doesn't see
She
blood,
doesn't see. Who said she doesn't see?
What do
We
you mean?
didn't agree that she doesn't see. My question was, she saw it on the 15th and she had
Right.
garlic. Next month she has garlic on
Right.
the 10th, on the 7th, on the 3rd, whatever.
Whatever.
Each time she has garlic, she has to check herself.
that's correct.
Or you said only once.
No. In other words, only once that she has to be the next once, the next
If she has
time
garlic,
around.
she has to check herself.
Right. If nothing happens,
Now if nothing happened and the 15th comes and she has garlic,
she doesn't have
need
to worry.
check,
doesn't
even though
have-
it's the 15th.
even though it's the 15th.
So
That was
we're blaming-
that was what the
so
chiddush
we're
is.
blaming it entirely on the garlic.
That's correct.
We're not considering the day.
The
at
day,
all.
right? That's the chiddush over here. That it's a cause. The garlic is a cause. It has nothing to do with the day. More likely the cause, unless of course she always sees it on a certain day.
And
That will have to happen.
We take that
Yeah.
for granted.
Right.
We take that for granted, although it only happened once until now.
Right.
You have to make it,
To make it a vesed.
to make it a vest.
No,
Make
but
it a
she has
vesed.
to be choishish the
Choishish,
next
yeah.
time,
Right.
after the first time
Right.
that she had the
That's correct.
No, wait.
Yeah.
She has garlic
Right.
and she
Right.
only one time.
Right.
Is that a raw garlic or fried
Wait a
garlic?
minute, month 2.
That's a good question. Raw or
It
fried?
depends where she's from. If she's from Iran,
Yes.
No, because the raw is a lot stronger than fried or
Yeah,
some
yeah.
women are more sensitive for fried.
Is that right? Yeah. I would venture to say that it must be raw because it's very, very spicy and hot. Just like onions and other examples of hot food. Once you fry the garlic, I don't think it's hot anymore. No?
Some people are sensitive. more
Sensitive, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if you would have to be choishish. It could be a fluke. It could be unusual. Yeah. I didn't see anybody commenting on what kind of garlic. Yes, yeah.
To establish that garlic is a causative agent,
Yes.
has to occur, correct? Or only
For it to become a veset.
But to be
Wait,
choishish.
so the first,
No, what
she
they're-
has garlic month 1,
Right,
and she's,
right.
on a day that she's not anticipating,
Yeah.
right? So it's on month 2, okay?
Uh-huh.
Does she have to be kosher or not?
When she has garlic.
She has garlic on month 2, different day. I mean, she has it on the 5th of month 1, and she was not anticipating, but she has garlic on day 15.
Yes.
Next month, she has garlic.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have a vested yet, only 1 month.
Right.
So she has to be kosher on day 10, that day.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. On that, we had a machlokes, remember, by kfitza. By kfitza, there was a machlokes whether do we have to
Let's
treat
not
it.
complicate things.
No,
With
it's
respect to his
important.
question, answer is
Yes, yes.
The answer is yes.
By kfitza, do we have to be choishish for one time as a vesed she'eno kavu or not? So we had that original argument, opinion, in the case of kfitza. She just jumped once. Right? Some say no.
Johnson has garlic.
So some say no. It's not even a vesed she'eno kavua.
That was regarding the jumping.
That was regarding the jumping,
With respect
yeah.
to the garlic, your answer is
Yeah.
without any further
Right.
whatever conditions or whatever. Your answer is yes. She has to be worried the next one on the 10
Right.
inches.
And
Right.
if she doesn't see.
Now, by the way,
at that time,
what's interesting is that with the sneezing and the yawning, the mechaber added, it's not a one sneeze. It has to be she's sneezing a lot. On that, the mechaber was a little bit more detailed. Just a sneeze, just a quick yawn. No, it would have to have been im ira lo shloisha pe'omim sheba. Ela shloisha ken harbe pe'omim ze achar ze. In order for it to be a stronger
So
indicator.
Just an incidental,
Yeah.
but something that's supernatural.
Yeah,
That's
so
unnatural.
now that would be a good question here. How much garlic should she have eaten that we would blame it on the garlic? Well, nobody says that here. But I would assume that if it's,
No, but the question is different.
quite a few
because
pieces, yeah.
People do have degrees of
Yeah.
sensitivity to spicy
Yeah.
food. People are allergic to spicy.
Right.
Some
Yes.
people enjoy spicy food. I enjoy spicy food.
Yeah.
Other people.
Right.
are
Other
very-
people maybe have more of a reaction.
Yeah.
And that's what it produces. Yes, you were going to say something, George?
So if getting back to my,
Right.
okay, so on the next, then the 3rd month she also has, but if she doesn't see it on this, then on the 3rd month it's gone.
That's correct. Yeah.
She doesn't have to be choishish.
She doesn't have to be cautious.
Didn't happen.
Yeah. Here in the Ramah, all it mentioned is that did she develop a vesed or not?
So in order to understand what you were just explaining, to accept it,
Yes.
if one looks at it, the event occurred. She had.
Yes.
Who do we blame?
Yes.
And we only need one. We only need one event or one blame it on.
Yes.
If we blame it on the garlic, we're not going to blame the day. Why
Yes.
should we blame the day for you? It's not that the garlic comes and takes away
Right.
from the day.
Doesn't take it away.
It never was hal on the day, because since we have the garlic, we can blame it on the garlic. We're not going
Yes.
to blame the day. So the question is now, which one is more powerful?
Right.
Is our expectation higher regarding that the garlic was the cause, or would our expectation be higher that the day was the cause? So apparently, since on this day she doesn't normally, so far she has
Right.
a history of seeing on this.
Exactly.
And now it was, I take it, she doesn't usually eat garlic either.
Right.
What if she's in the habit of eating garlic, and for years she's been eating garlic she never saw, and now she sees while she's eating garlic, do we still blame it on the?
I
The
don't.
last 20 years she's been eating, the woman
Yeah.
eats garlic every day.
I guess we would.
Never saw any blood when she eats garlic.
That would be a good example of where most likely we would not blame it on the garlic because she hasn't had this problem before.
It's not like a magic
Right.
fit.
Yeah. And it could be something else that's happened. It could also be, remember, something in her body, an illness.
She could have also sneezed.
Yeah. And she forgot she didn't.
She forgot to sneeze.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can definitely tell she had garlic.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, that was Sif Chav Gimel. In Chav Daled, Sif Chav Daled is based on a Mishnah. There's a Mishnah in Maseches Niddah where there's a machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, the Gabe Veset Hashaot. There was a woman who ordinarily sees sunrise.
Now, Mr. Finch,
Yes.
Now, you were saying garlic all this, but the exact same considerations apply to with spicy.
Any other spicy food too.
And even according to the Rama, if it was
a
different
combination,
kinds of
yeah,
spices.
right, exactly.
If a woman had action
Yes.
to food that we would not classify, for whatever reason, she has to the potato, something very bland.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
she sees,
right.
if she would see that 3 times, do we say that's it or not?
That's a very good question, and I think the answer to that will be similar to what I'm going to mention soon with taking certain pills. So let's wait for the pills, and then we'll remind. Yeah, right. Good, very good point. Excellent point. I think that will resemble my example that I'm going to mention soon with pills that certain women take, either to bring on their period or to regulate their period. 2 different kinds of pill. So soon we'll talk about that. In Sif Kaf Daled, well, by the way, we're going to do Kaf Daled, Kaf Hey, and Kaf Vav. They're very short Sim. Kaf Vav is a little bit longer, but they're pretty straightforward. Because next week, in Mitzvah Hashem, we're going to get into a whole different area: little girls and older women. So we're going to be done with pretty much the Vesatot, the different kinds of Vesatot, on to something else. With that, we will be, and then we'll talk about women who are pregnant and nursing. After that, we're going to be beginning Siman Kuf Tzadeh, which is a very big Siman, important Siman about staining. So we want to, we just want to try to get through this and go on the Mitzvah Hashem with the Ksamim. So in Kaf Daled, we have like this. Kaf Daled, let me just give you a quick introduction. The Mishnah discusses the machlokes Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda about Veset HaSha'ot. Veset HaSha'ot deals with a woman who has her period at sunrise. Let's take an hour. The question is, how much before does she should be concerned? Can we say that, well, it's always at sunset? That means she doesn't have to be worried about the hours preceding it, right? We can say on this day, but only from sunset on, not before. Or does she have to be concerned about the night before? We're not talking about here the Or Zerua, right? The Shita that is Machmi before. Okay?
We had the 12 hours.
Oh, very good. So ordinarily when a woman has a day, then we have the question of Ona. And the Ona is what? The day. She saw at night, the night. And it should be the same, always. And that was very important because I believe we said later on that when it comes to symptoms of the body, we don't have to be so much makpid. When was that last time that symptom? Was it at night? Remember the Shevet? I think the Shevet Alevi talks about that. But you're right. When a woman sees on a certain day, you just consider the day. In other words, without introducing the Ozerua. But when you're talking about Veset HaSha'ot, when you're talking about the Veset of hours, there's some machlokes in the Mishnah. And Rabbi Yehuda argues against Rabbi Yossi, a Veset that depends on hours. Rabbi Yehuda says that the whole night before is also a surah. In other words, even though she has a set time, Rabbi Yehuda holds you have to consider the night before. So the Raavad explains based on this machlokes, in other words, you don't just start from the hour, you still have to consider the night before. Raavad explains that machlokes, or there won't be that machlokes when it comes to Veset of the Guf. In other words, in having symptoms of the body, that even Rabbi Yehuda would be maskim that you can go by the hour that she usually has it, if there is such an hour. Okay, that there's a difference between the Veset that comes about normal, naturally, a woman has her period at a certain hour or a certain day, versus when she has a symptom at a certain hour. And here that Raavad says there wouldn't be a machlokes. So it's mashma that in a Veset Aguf, all she would be choishes is for the hour. In other words, if she always has, let's say, early morning, at a certain hour, she always has her cramps, her sneezing, her yawning, right? she wouldn't have to be concerned about the night before. In other words, everybody would be in agreement that you could use the Veset HaSha'ah. It's important that she wouldn't have to worry beforehand. Why? What's the difference? Because in Veset HaGuf, it's much more accurate, therefore more reliable when she's getting it. Then she can get it today, during the day sometime. It could be the morning, it could be the afternoon. And since that's not so accurate, it's not a Swiss clock, then we need perhaps some time beforehand too, depending on how you hold. But the Veset HaGuf, if it proved to be, at a certain hour it always happens, then you can go by the hour.
So what again establishes what was the history in this case? What are the conditions?
The what?
What are the
Right.
conditions in summary?
No, first of all, the Rabbi says there wouldn't be a machlokes. We're going to read it inside. I just gave you the introduction, but the Mechaber speaks about it, and we're going to see it inside. Sif Chav Dalet reads inside as follows. The Kulam, all the symptoms that we just mentioned, Ein chosheshim lahem ela l'sha'ato. All we're concerned about is l'sha'ato, is at that hour. Ketzad, for example, here's an example. Hoysore gilo lirois im atcholas aveses miyad. If she would, let's say, she was always used to seeing with the beginning of her period, so asura kol zman hamshochas aveses, she would be asura so long as the veset continues on. Hoysore gilo lirois besoifo, however, but if she only sees it at the end, Eino asura elo besoifo, she would only be asura besoifo. Okay, so just to explain this a little bit more. If she ordinarily sees at the beginning, as soon as she's having these sensations, this feelings, the yawning or the sneezing, she sees right away in the very beginning, then she has to be concerned the entire period that she ordinarily sees. And it was from the very beginning till the end, as long as it lasts, I should say. But let's say she sees besoifo. In other words, she has the sneezing, the yawning, but sometime at the end, not right away, sometime later on in the day, after she's finished her sneezing, she begins to see. Eina asura ela besoifo. Then she would not be asura right away in the beginning. Just because she sneezes right now doesn't mean that the husband has to be away. She can be asura ela besoifo. I'm going to come back to that because there's a question of that. How does she know exactly when each one is? When is all this said? Bizman shekol hare'iyah muvlat betoch haveset. אבל אם אין כל הראייה מובלעת בתוך הווסת, אלא נמשכת גם אחר הווסת, אסור לו מתחילת הווסת עד סוף עונה אחת. This is true as long as the entire re'iyah that she sees is muvlat, is absorbed within the veset. In other words, they both coincide together. Then this is accurate. This could be relied upon. You can use this as a time indicator, whether the beginning or the end, as long as they two coincide. In other words, that the whole re'iyah will be within the veset during the time that she feels it. But if it's not, if ein kol re'iyah muvlat veset ela nimsheches, she sees even after the veset. She continues to see, even after she stopped having those symptoms. The next day, the following day. Then, we cannot use this clock in the same precise manner that we did, because in this case, asuro mitchilas haveset at sof ona achas, one ona afterwards, until the end of the ona. Yes. Mm-hmm. One ona. That's correct. Either day or night.
So, do we add on and on?
No, we don't. So that we already discussed before. It's in the Kuf Pei Dalet, if you recall. A woman usually sees blood for several days. When did you calculate the veset from? From the onset. Even though it may go on for several days, we always go by the onset. When does it arrive? So here, what's the chiddush? Even though we're delaying it a little bit more, and that's a good question, that they raise this question. Why is this any different? Why are we delaying it a little bit more? We're adding more time to it, to this particular veset, because the reality is we're not really delaying it by much. We're just covering the entire veset, the entire oina. We're not making her asura at another time. So the question is, are we just going to go by sha'is and be precise, or will we need to extend it a little bit more? So in the case where it's not muvlat, it's not self-contained, coinciding, at the same time, it does go on for a while beyond her sneezing and feelings, then we have to give her the whole oina. In other words, then we can't just go by the sha'is, we can't just limit it to that amount, to that time of when she first has it or when she's expecting it. Since it's going to go on, we need to have a little bit more leeway, more room to allow for her to, maybe in case she didn't see it earlier on, as she usually does, she may see it a little bit later on. That's the difference. So it all depends if the time, in other words, can you be accurate? Yes and no. It works with the body. In other words, if the body is so precise, you can rely on the precision like a Swiss clock, but sometimes you may not be able to if it extends beyond the amount of time that she has the vesed. That's what Sifkov Dal is all about. Okay, so the Shach on this asks as follows. What if she sees before the sneezing or the yawning? What if it begins before? Here we said, what if it goes on later? What if it happens before? And then she sneezes. No, she sees the blood, and the sneezing comes on later. In other words, it continues on while she's sneezing. Then she does have to begin from the beginning of the oina. In other words, then you can, similar to what we just said now, that she cannot just rely on that hour. She has to begin a little bit earlier. But the question is, but wait a minute. Well, before we get to the question, the Shach has a suffix whether in that case, if it begins early, do you also have to extend it later? There's a suffix, and then there's a machlokes in the poiskim whether a woman would have to extend it.
I don't understand the question because you said it has.
In other words, how would you treat it then?
But it sees.
Right.
And whatever her physical might be,
right,
should be used. We will start immediately as soon as that's it. Who cares what's going to happen before?
Yeah, but no. But usually, remember, we're talking about now symptoms that she regularly sees at a certain hour, right?
She normally has them sunrise.
Sunrise.
Months.
Right.
All of a sudden, month 7, 3 hours before, without any.
No. Well, that's.
In case you just.
Yeah.
Okay. Why would we month 7? We would say, end of story. Here is conquers all.
No. So that's what he's saying. In other words, let's say she always sees it at 10 o'clock in the morning. Let's make it easy.
Right.
Okay? And usually, or not usually, but there may be times where we can use that hour as an indicator of from when on she has to be choishish, right? That she would not have to be choishish before she sees it, right? However, the Shach's example is that she has noticed that she's seeing blood a couple hours before she sneezes. Mm-hmm. The sneezing comes on a little bit later. Okay? How much would she have to be concerned? So on that, the Shach says, you're going to have to start the whole oina. That's all he says.
It's no different than...
Almost, yeah, exactly. In other words, we would extend it for the entire oina before. In other words, even though we said you can rely, that's only if it's not before. But if it does start before, then you can't use that hour as an indicator because, it's like you said, it's more similar to a regular. Now, so here the question is like this. The Chabas Das asks a question on this, based on what the Shach says. How does she know when she's going to sneeze? In other words, if she sees blood a little bit earlier, how does she know when she's going to sneeze? In other words, based on what we just said, that she has to apply the whole oina before, how does she know when this will take place, that she has to start before? So the Chavas Das explains that we're talking about oina beinonis here. In an oina beinonis situation, she would have to stay away from her husband the oina before, on that day, or the entire oina of that day. So it is a set time. It is a set time, and we're concerned, of course, what's going to happen is it may be that she will yawn or sneeze on that day, because it's oina beinonis. We're looking out for it. It's not a woman that has a vesed kavua. It can happen. So we have, it's not a time that we are not aware of. Oh, when is it going to happen? No, it's on the 30th day. It's on the oina beinonis. It can happen. So on that day that we say it can happen, it's that day that the Shach is talking about, that she would have to stay away from the entire oina. Otherwise, how do you know? How does she know when she's going to exactly? I mean, what is exactly the chiddush over here? So he says it's talking about oino beinanis. That's one explanation that I saw. In other words, if she always sees blood before, who knows when she's going to sneeze? So he says it's oino beinanis makes sense because oino beinanis is one of those days that she has to look out for. Now, in the mechaber's din, that if she would see always at the end of the sneezing, what did we say? What was the mechaber saying? Something very interesting. If she sees at the end, she doesn't have to worry in the beginning. On that, you can also ask a question: how does she know when the end is? Why shouldn't she be choishish every single hour? Maybe now it's the end of the sneezing. So on that, I saw the Badal Shulchan brings down based on the Rambam that the end means that she sees 2 or 3 hours later on. In other words, that's when she's used to seeing it. From the very beginning of the time that she sneezes, it lasts about 2-3 hours or so, maybe 1 hour. So if she knows that, then in the very beginning of the piyuk, she wouldn't have to worry. Okay, anyway, that was Sif Kov Daled. And on this Seif, I mentioned earlier that there can be other situations where a woman will see as a result of different things. And I saw that brought down in the Shevet HaLevi about Taaruvot, about pills. 2 kinds of pills. One pill that a woman who has not had her period wants to bring on the period, or she stopped seeing, or she had some problems in seeing her period. There are pills to bring on the period, and then there are pills to regulate. Those are the pills that Kalas use to be able to regulate the period. So here there's a little bit of a problem too, because some of these pills can bring on, or do bring on, the period. So the Shevet HaLevi brings down that a woman who takes pills to bring on the Veset, this kind of pills will be even more strict than eating garlic. And if the doctors say that she is expected to see within a day or 2 after taking the pills, then she would not be able, of course, to be with her husband at that time, unless she checks herself. And as far as the pills that regulate the period that Kalas take, if the doctors say that after she starts taking the pills, she stops seeing, but she will see again after a certain amount of days, she would also have to be concerned about that. In other words, there are pills, I'm not sure how they all work, but there are pills that will regulate, but as a result of the regulation, she's going to see 3 days later.
How specific? Because all the doctors tell you a day, 2 days, they're not
right.
Very specific. And we don't want to be separated more.
Right. No, here we're talking about, let's say, well...
The doctor be very specific.
Right. It could be a kala. Well, with a kala there wouldn't be a problem, but with a married woman, if she for some reason is taking pills to regulate, some of these pills will regulate, but will also bring on blooding or spotting within, let's say, 3 days. So one would have to be concerned with that time frame that the doctors say that.
All 3 days.
Right. That before then it would be okay, but after that it would be a problem. So she would, for example, if it's 3 days, she would be muteres the first 2 days. And after that, she would have to be porish, me'is le'is. In other words, based on the time that the doctors are expecting her to see blood. All right, anyway, these are all kinds of examples. Therefore, I tend to agree with you that if there is something out there that can bring this on, either by allergy or something else that has proven itself, we don't know. It would have to have proven itself, then obviously she would have to be concerned about it. And it could be that she could develop a veset for that. Why not? It should be the same, like with the pills, or with any of the other ones appearing in the list here. Sifkov hey im echot meilu bal zman yadua, az vaday asura kol onat haveset kemo veset yamim bereida. All right, and that's the next seif. If one of these situations comes to a particular zman, as vaday asura kol onat haveset, that entire onat haveset, just like a veset yamim greida, just like a regular veset that comes every certain amount of days, she would be asura for the entire oina. So here he's talking about the symptoms. If any of those symptoms only comes at a certain time, Not, in other words, she doesn't have just a symptom. It comes at a certain time. Then she would be a surah kol oines leveset. Sifkov vav kashem shechoshesh leveset hayom befam achas kach choshesh leveset aguf befam achas. In the same way that she chosheshes for veset of days with once befam achas kach choshesh leveset aguf befam achos. So here the Mechaber clarifies a little bit more with what he said before, that with once it would be sufficient to be chosheshes for it. Ketzad, hoisom mefahekes pamachas. She was sneeze yawning once, but also and she saw. She tefahek pamaches when she yawns again. Chosheshes lo. She should be concerned about it. Choshem sheveset hayomim she'ino kavua neka bepamachas. In the same way that a vessel which is not kavua is uprooted with one time not seeing, right? The next time around, shafilu also shtepe. Even if she saw it twice, the yom yedua imigiez man shlishi. If the third day came, or third time came, the Lord also, neka legamri, is completely gone. Keinu beset aguf, the same is with the beset aguf, kashem shebeset hayomim akavua begimol pa'omim, tzorich akira gimol pa'omim ubdika. In the same way that if you have a beset of days that is kavua with 3 times, in order to uproot it, you also need 3 times and to check. Keinu beset kavua beguf. So if you have a beset that's kavua with the body having some certain symptoms, you also are able, to, in other words, to uproot it after 3 times. But how does this work? Here the Mechaber clarifies that it has to happen in the following way. Me'emasai akirosoi, how, if it's in the body that she feels, how do we get rid of it, that we don't have to concern ourselves about it the next time? Mesheyikre mikre velotire, once she starts sneezing, and she doesn't see. But, hoyo mikre lezman yodua, if that particular yawn or sneeze happens at a particular day, then of course it would not be gone unless she sneezes on that particular day 3 times. The Lord also she didn't see. Just for sneezing alone, or just the day coming, that she did not see, it would not be. In other words, if it's combined, you would have to have the 2 not happen. In other words, she sneezed, and it didn't happen on that day. It was both. But the Meforshim here explain that in the event she did sneeze, and for several times she did not see it on that particular day, all it means is that on that day she's not choishish. But she still has to be choishish for when she sneezes. So that's a semi type of veset that was nekar. It was partially undone, partially uprooted, but not entirely. Because she still she may still have it when she sneezes. She's seen it 3 times. Tell the women to be careful not to sneeze and not to yawn. Yeah, obviously this is not too common, so we don't have to be too concerned about it. But I think what you said, George, is a good point. That even though we've seen here many examples of where the body may have a feeling or a sensation of some indicator, it's not necessarily limited to these. There could be other kinds of situations where if something recurs or repeats itself, or like you said, Ilan, if she has an allergic reaction to some food, but we would have to prove it. We would have to see that it's that. Here we have examples of what the Chachamim said, that this could be attributed to the garlic. It could be attributed to spicy food. So it's also not just, not everybody mentions it.
In the future, an Israeli
Yes.
came up with this.
Yes, exactly, yes, yeah.
That attaches to the iPhone.
Yeah.
Was a very popular
Sure.
Kickstarter project, $1,000.
And you could figure out what the body doesn't like.
And you got 2 million, and now next year it's going to hit the...
So that means you could also get half of that for your project.
Why
Anyway, the important detail, however, in all of this is that sensations of the body are definitely more reliable than external physical pressure. Because, that could happen too, even we said before.
No, but
a flight. Yeah.
Because we're saying if you're able to isolate it.
Yes, if you're able to
it's
isolate.
different foods, but they have this particular mixer.
Yeah.
Can you rely on it?
Here it's not a matter of being relying on something, it's a matter of being machmer, right? Being strict about it. You have to be concerned, right? If anything, we're not trying to be lenient here. The only time you can be lenient is, can this become a veset And this is the Vesed.
Exactly.
So that becomes in some ways a kula that you don't have to, with respect to other possibilities, yes. Then that would become a kula. Yes, it might
Now
be
she
possible.
doesn't have to worry about
Yeah.
ordinance and
Yeah.
so on.
Anyway, I think the bottom line is prove it. You know, there are many situations that we are not sure, and that is why we have to be concerned about both until until there's a trend. So there might be others out there. Okay, I guess we can stop here.